Hello there. I'm in our art gallery and we are about to begin our Sunday Scrolls service. So thank you all for being here, and I'm hoping that I can balance this somehow, someplace that is going to be interesting for you to be looking at. Let's see what we can do. Okay, there we go. I'm coming to you from our gallery, and you can see behind me some of our goddess statue collection, which is the Morning Glory Zell collection, and of these amazing objects that she collected over many, many years. And of course, we have many statues and images here too. And I'd like to take a moment just to show you some of the artwork that we do have in the gallery. This is some of Lady Lorian's work, which if you attended our memorial for her this past week, we looked at some of that and talked about that a bit. These were some paintings that she did in the last couple of years of her life. And each one of them features a woman and a cat of that area, and a bird of the area, and the scorpion, which is an insect of the area. So in this particular case, you have a lovely Egyptian woman holding a lotus. You have what looks to be a cheetah type of cat, a black-headed ibis, and the scorpion, which was also the symbol of the goddess Selket. And we've got a little bit more nature going on in this too. You can see a little worm, perhaps one that's going to become a butterfly, and I think that's a praying mantis in the grass there, along with some fish. One of the things that was kind of unusual about Lady Lorian is that she loved nature in all its forms, and she loved some of the what we would call lowlier parts of nature too. She loved insects, and I know that when we were traveling together, we would always stop at zoos if they had an insect exhibit. She believed that these tiny creatures were often overlooked and abused, and that we should take care of them as well. So I find myself escorting a lot of spiders outside for a little relocation effort, and to avoid killing these innocent little creatures wherever they may be. And so right now they are telling us that we are in the midst of a bug apocalypse because so many insects have been wiped out by our powerful insecticides. And so it really behooves all of us to try to make sure that our insects have a chance to survive too. I know that they're not always the most appetizing of creatures, and there's plenty that I'm not too fond of either, but I always try to put my personal feelings aside and make sure that they find their way to safety. So that's one other way that you can help promote the diversity of species on this planet. They say that many insect species have not even yet been discovered, and yet they will be wiped out, and we will never know what special magic they might have to offer us if only we took the time to look. So when she talks about preserving all the creatures, as with the Fellowship of Isis, that includes the tiniest, tiniest creatures. So may all this give us some food for thought as we go forward into our sacred scrolls today. I hope you're having a splendid Sunday. If you're in this area, you know it's warmed up a little bit today, but blessedly has not reached the temperatures that we were experiencing so recently. And we're hoping for a respite from that as we scramble to get adjusted to what is a new reality. And we're having to make sure that we have more fans and better insulation and all sorts of things that will hopefully enable us to face the heat with more equanimity and calm, which is, of course, our goal. So let me draw forth the scrolls. And these, of course, are the work of Lady Lorianne Vanier, our foundress here. And she put together a scroll for each Sunday service, and she went through them, and one of her last projects was to put them in a little bit more cohesive form. And just recently I found a collection of earlier scrolls which she had modified to put into this version. And I can appreciate why she did it, because a lot of the earlier scrolls had things that definitely referred to events of that particular year. For example, she wrote about her partner Paul and his liver transplant, which was in a very specific year. She wrote about different things that were happening in the news and so on. And so what she wanted to create was a collection of the scrolls that were separate from those everyday occurrences. But actually, I kind of like the earlier ones, that she is much more personal and reactive to things happening around her. So I'm going to put together a version of those too for those that are interested. And then hopefully we can enjoy her wisdom in that form as well. I didn't know which one was due this week, but now I do. And it is the scroll on Isis and Osiris. And of course, we love it when it's the time for Isis and Osiris in their union. And so that is the one that we are reading today. And actually, I'm skipping ahead. We have not done our opening poem, so let us go ahead and do that. I think most of you know it. Divine Isis, goddess of 10,000 names, I invoke your grace. Come to our temple, O goddess, dwell in our shrine, make our hearths your altars, our hearts your home. Bring vision and healing to those who use this shrine. Give us wisdom and unveil the truth, and with thy feathery wings protect us. Breathe into us the breath of life and health and strength. And now let us honor the directions, beginning in the east. And I will turn you so you can see east from this angle. Let us honor the east, element of air with the winds ever blowing. And we honor the south, element of fire with the flames ever glowing. And we honor the west, element of water with the rivers ever flowing. And we honor the north, element of earth with the seeds ever growing. And we honor the spirits above and below with the wisdom ever knowing. And we honor our bodies both without and within with a love forever showing. Where we come into this world with all these gifts and more, our very own special essence. Let us thank the goddess for that which she bestows. Let us go forth, refreshed and renewed, with dedication to preserve and protect all life, for we are all children of Isis, the great mother goddess. And now we will read the scroll for today. Isis is responsible for the creation of all living creatures. Her name means throne, indicating that she is indeed a goddess of all that is supreme. She was associated with the star Sirius, the brightest star in the heavens, which was called, like her, the Great Provider. The annual rising of Sirius ushered in the Nile's inundation and the beginning of the Egyptian year. The ancient Egyptians used a star cosmology And indeed, it may be that we all come from the stars. Within us are all the elements thereof. Nut, the goddess of the starry heavens, is the mother of Isis and Osiris, who fell in love within her womb, even before they were born. Could this be indicative that there is a twin soul someplace for each of us? The sacred marriage of Isis and Osiris depicted a love so great that it survived even after the death of Osiris. With her powers of magic, Isis caused Osiris to rise again and was able to conceive a son, Horus, by him. By this example, surely we can overcome all adversity as love survives all things. This remarkable love story deals with love and renewal and helps us to believe that even the most tragic events can end in something of value. And scholars say that the story of Isis and Osiris was perhaps the earliest love story coming out of the ancient world and coming out of the ancient mythologies, where the two partners really deeply cared for each other. A lot of the other couples in mythology are pretty contentious, and you can't say that about Isis and Osiris. They had many adversities to face from outside, but between the two of them, there seemed to be a very solid and loving relationship. Even his supposed infidelity with Nephthys was the result of her disguising herself as Isis. So it was not something that was necessarily an active act on the part of Osiris. So it's something to contemplate, that in our faith that we follow, that there is a model of true love that can be eternal, that can overcome obstacles, and that can bring us enlightenment in so many different ways. So it's something to contemplate tonight as you're thinking of these things before you go to sleep. If you're like me, I'm also often in that kind of contemplative mode late at night, thinking about the mythologies and the stories, and consider how it impacts your own life and what you can do to manifest the best aspects of all of these ancient stories and guidelines that have come forward for us to use. And Lady Lauren advises, so go out in the dark of night, gaze at the stars, and see the great body of the goddess Nut arching over the universe. Imagine her birthing the goddess Isis and the god Osiris, the beings who brought true civilization to the inhabitants of the world. And there's something I want to share with you too, that when you're trying to understand the mythologies, the cosmologies, a lot of the time we approach it without even realizing it, with a built-in barrier to it, where we're going, oh, this is symbolic, and, it's allegory, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But every once in a while, and that's fine, if that, keeps your rational mind happy, that's fine. But every once in a while, just try to put aside that barrier. Try to contemplate it as if it is all literally true, that there were divine beings that joined together, that the female of those divine beings had these 5 children, that a bond was formed between 2 of them even within the womb. Take it at face value, at least for a moment, and see what insights that may give you. You may find it's more probable than you think. For one thing, they've discovered that in ancient Egypt, multiple births were far more common than any place else on earth, as near as they can tell. While I doubt that there were many quintuplets being born, nonetheless, there were plenty of twins, plenty of triplets, and there probably were a few, occasionally, higher number births. So this was not uncommon in was not that big a stretch. So, and even the idea that, that Isis and Osiris joined in the womb and then had a child within that womb themselves is interesting, because they have found, that in human births occasionally there will be a second child that is born of a different conception that is included. So there might be quote-unquote twins, but one could be actually much younger than the other because it was born from a different conception. So things are a lot more complicated than we sometimes think. So these impossible stories of the mythologies may actually be pointing at something that is at least possible. Lady Lorien goes on to say, the attributes of forgiveness were another important element that the goddess Isis brought. She even forgave her evil brother Set, who killed her dearly beloved husband Osiris, and then badly wounded her son. This part of the story indicates that good will prevail over evil, for her son Horus was ultimately the victor. Another lesson from the tale of Isis and Osiris is their glorious love, which we were just talking about. We can take these attributes and work on our alliances to make sure our own liaisons are balanced and true. Let the Isis and Osiris myth be your guide. So, how has this myth impacted you? Is there something you want to share in the comments? We can certainly take a few. I'm sorry I'm not doing it on Zoom here, but we are doing the best we can with our limited Wi-Fi resources and such, and Facebook Live seems to be the most reliable right now. And I'm being told that my signal keeps freezing, so I'm sorry about that. The technology has been an enduring challenge, and you would think after the pandemic year we would have everything just right, but we still have issues occasionally, and I thank you for your patience in trying to keep up with what we're doing, even though technologically we may not always be perfect. So, all right. Yes, the promise of renewal is part of all of this. All right. Well, as we move in through the heart of summer, we're coming up on the end of July, and the 1st of August is, by some calculations, the Egyptian New Year. We're not doing much of anything to mark that this time. We are also limiting, although they are allowed, we are again limiting religious gatherings here because we're finding that, you know, the information that we're getting, especially in Sonoma County, is not good in terms of increased numbers, and there's been some outbreaks and so on. So out of an abundance of caution, we will be, continuing to severely limit live attendance at anything that our temple is putting on. Hopefully in a couple of months it will all be better and we'll be able to truly be back to normal. But for the time being, please be safe and careful out there, and please use your masks and take every precaution, because we're not out of the woods yet, and we all want to get out of the woods. That is the goal. So. All right. Well, as always, I am so pleased that you've joined us here today to keep in touch with Lady Lorien's work, to keep in touch with the work that we're doing and the daily life of the oasis and of this land, which is so potent and powerful, and of which we are so grateful to be a part of. And I hope that in your own sacred place where you are, that you feel those delightful divine energies in full flow, and that they will keep you on a good path for this coming week and bring you to exaltation and joy. So, Goddess bless you all, and we will be back with you tomorrow for Noonrite, and I hope to see many of you there again. Goddess bless you all. Go forth in peace.